Okay. All right. I'm Joe, if you haven't figured that out already. Um, I am an associate professor here at Piedmont and chair of the mass communications department in Demarest. But in the summer, I try to avoid going to Demarest as much as possible. Nothing against Demarest, just, I have three boys. One of them's graduating high school Thursday. The other one's graduating middle school, and the other one's graduating elementary school. So we have a busy week ahead of us here this week. Um, so I love my summers, and so this is cool that I get to teach and still be with my kids, like Kayla is with her cutie. Oh my gosh, that's adorable. So the summer class of public speaking here, we're pretty laid back. I know my email came off a little harsh, and I got a couple replies with some concerns, and about events coming up and stuff. I didn't mean it to come off that way. Email sometimes comes off that way. I apologize, but um, I understand everyone's in different places over the summer. Just do what you need to do. The one thing that is definitely required is when you give speeches, you obviously have to be here to give your speech, and I really want you to be here for everyone else to give their speech. And so we'll get more into that as we discuss things. First of all, are there any questions in general? And because I want to, before I quickly give a quick overview of the class, I don't want to spend too much time on this because in an 8-week course that's only meeting 6 weeks, we don't really have a syllabus day like you would in some other classes. But does anyone have any questions? If you do, you can always feel free to unmute yourself and butt in, or ask in the chat if you want. That works as well. That's fine. And when I'm teaching as well, so people know, when I'm talking, I don't mind if you guys undo your video. I love it when you have your video. If you don't, if things happen, I totally get it. If it's more convenient for you not to, that's fine. But when other people are giving speeches, when your classmates are giving speeches, I want everyone, unless there's something that you really can't for whatever reason, I really want people to make every effort to have their videos on while people are giving speeches. So that way we can show your classmates, the same respect that hopefully they will share you. Okay, so the syllabus real quick for the course is posted on Canvas here. There's my information. Here's my cell phone number. That's my only cell phone. It's legit, like call me, text me. I mean, that sometimes you may feel a little awkward to text or call your professor, but it's really okay. It's the best way to communicate with me. At least it's the most instantaneous way. For the most part, I'm available in the summer. The biggest thing I have is coaching an 11U baseball all-star team this summer. So in the evenings, except for Monday, of course, in the evenings, a lot of times I'm not available. So if you text me, it might take me a little bit of time to get back to you. But other than that, I'm usually pretty quick. If you need something, if you have a question or a concern, to call or text me. Just identify yourself when you text me before you ask your question. Like, hey, this is Patricia Barton from your public speaking class, and then shoot with your question. So at least I know who you are. I also am holding virtual office hours. I'm teaching 2 online courses this semester. So you may see people from different classes pop in those virtual office hours. But this is the Zoom link. I'll be online at these times. It's very limited. And of course, I'm available by appointment. If you need to, we could hop on a video chat for however long you need. just let me know and we can set something up pretty easily. Okay, I think the textbooks, you can either get, you can, the hard copy is pretty expensive. The digital copies, though, like for instance, the link I sent you, it's a little cheaper. I don't even have a hard copy because they won't even send me a hard copy. So all they'll send me is, oh, you can't, it's not going to show up. It's basically a loose leaf version of the textbook. I helped edit the textbook, so I know it pretty well, but I don't get any royalties from it. So don't think that's the case. That's why we're using it. I just think it's a pretty good book that teaches public speaking, not so much in a manner that will benefit you, whatever field you're in, and in life in general. Okay, grading system. Oh, I duplicated that, but that's pretty typical with every class. And then the breakdown of this course, 70% of your grade is your speeches that we'll do right here on Zoom. And there's 4 of them: special occasion, self-introduction. Those are pretty simple speeches. You don't have to do a lot of or you don't have to really do any research for those speeches. And then the end of the semester, you have these 2 bigger speeches that are your informative speech and the persuasive speech. And those are your more formal academic speeches you might think of. We will have a final exam in the class that's online, open book and everything. And then you'll have homework for 3 weeks, including next week because it's Memorial Day, and then the week of the 4th of July. Those 2 weeks, we won't have a virtual meeting because even though the Piedmont academic calendar says Memorial Day holiday, but it'll say 8-week courses will still meet. I'm not going to make you guys meet on those days because that's just cruel. So, but what I will do is I will prepare kind of, if some of you have taken fully asynchronous classes, I'll prepare a video presentation for you to watch, and then you'll have homework kind of based on that. And then that'll be up to you. You'll have the whole week to watch it and complete it. So here's some more information. Oh God, I don't know why. I meant to take this out about the cell phone policy. This is, I adapted this syllabus from the in-person one. I do allow you to make up late work if you don't submit things by the deadline. And this is kind of my automatic deduction policy. So basically, if you're just a little late, I want to encourage you to still turn it in. You'll only get a 5% deduction. But then if you're, like roughly a day late, it'll be 10% and so on and so forth for that. So here's the breakdown of the week. This is what we're doing today. Okay. You'll have a speech assignment for this week already, but hopefully you won't be too nervous about it after we talk about what you're doing. No class next week. So these are those chapters and that I'll be presenting to you in a video format that you can watch online, and you'll have homework. And then when we meet again in 2 weeks, you'll give your special occasion speech and so forth. I won't go through the whole thing here. And then the last day of the semester, you'll give your persuasive speeches. That's July 11th. And then you'll have to do your online final exam by July 15th. And then this is all the stuff that's on every syllabus that says we care about you and blah, 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 which we really do. So any questions about the syllabus so far, or what the week's going to look like? So oh, go ahead, Catherine.
All right. So for assignments, do you release them weekly, or can we work ahead a week, or how do you release the assignments?
That's a good question. I will release. So I will try to release things 2 weeks ahead. I will say for next week's Memorial Day assignment, I don't have anything prepped for that yet because when I taught this last year, it wasn't Memorial Day that week. So I gave that in person. So I have to develop that. I have to put that together. So Wednesday, my hope is I'll work on that tomorrow. And by Wednesday, at Wednesday morning, I'll have everything published and produced for that. So you could go ahead and knock that out. And then you could have like your whole Memorial Day week off, basically. Good question. And I'm very communicative with you through Canvas. So I'll send you updates when I update things. And usually when I update assignments or add something new, there's a little button that a professor can check that says notify students you updated this. I usually always keep that checked. So you just kind of get a push notification right away when that happens. So good question. Anything else? So always feel free to get in touch with me as needed. The other thing I want to show you before we get into our discussion today is the Canvas shell. Ooh, wow. I almost just ended our meeting. It's not what I wanted to do. Okay, here is our Canvas shell. Let me click on student view. So here, the Zoom link for the classes here. This is the syllabus. This is something you've probably done before. Every online class, or every class actually at Piedmont, they want you to go ahead, click on this, and it's just a one paragraph thing that says that you understand. So if you could please go ahead and do that when you get a chance, because they kind of use that system, especially for online classes, to make sure that people are actually engaging with that very first thing. So it's just a student responsibility agreement about that you're responsible for the work in this class. And then also the way I set up Canvas is each week, I'll update everything that we talk about in class. The 3 PowerPoint slideshows, I will post here so you can have access to that. These 2 things we'll talk about later. These are examples of the special commemoration speeches that you're going to be assigned. So these are 2 examples of speeches that I wrote. And then you'll see when you have assignments, you'll have an assignment prompt like this, that I try to keep it pretty detailed about what you need to do. And also the grading rubric is up there as well for you. So that's up there. And if you click on syllabus here, you'll see, for those of you that really like to kind of look ahead and plan things, all the assignments in this class, all the graded things in this class are all posted here in a calendar order. You won't be able to access them if they're not published yet. Like for instance, the exam, you'll just get that, but it does tell you everything that's available or everything that's coming up. So you should be able to easily stay on top of things in this class. All right. I am going to get to know each of you through an exercise that we're going to do in a little bit here. So I'm not just skipping over that, because I really do want to know more about each of you. Let me get to this here. Okay, so I know some people are probably terrified of public speaking and think that they might be a bad public speaker. And that's very common, but I guarantee you that all of you are at least a better public speaker than this guy. He was running for office in Stark County, Ohio, and he kind of went viral for this speech that he gave at, I think it was a Republican Party meeting where they were giving different candidates an opportunity to talk. So don't have your speakers too loud, because he gets really loud. And this is about 5 minutes long, so sit back and watch this.
Ladies and gentlemen of the Stark County Republican Party Executive Committee, good evening, and thank you not only for your attendance, but for allowing me the opportunity to speak. My name is Phil Davison, and I am seeking our party's nomination for the position of Starr County Treasurer on November 10th, November of 2010, excuse me. In terms of my background, I am from the village of Minerva, where I am serving my 13th year of elected service as a Minerva Council member. In terms of education, I have a bachelor's degree in sociology, a bachelor's degree in history, a master's degree in public administration, and a master's degree in communication. In terms of elections across Starr County, I have represented our party twice on the county ballot in both the primary and the general elections. When I ran for Starr County Clerk of Courts in 1996 and Starr County Commissioner in 2000, and I will not apologize for my tone tonight. I have been a Republican in times good, and I have been a Republican in times bad. Albert Einstein issued one of my most favorite quotes in the history of the spoken word, and it is as follows. In the middle of opportunity, in the middle of difficulty lies opportunity. I'm going to repeat that so I have clarity tonight. In the middle of difficulty lies opportunity. This is the opportunity we've been waiting for. The Starr County Treasurer's Office is a mess. It is in dire need of structure and guidance. And now is the time to seize this opportunity with an aggressive campaign and an even more aggressive campaigner. If nominated tonight, I promise each and every person in this room, I will hit the ground running, come out swinging, and end up winning. Let's send a message tonight to the people of Starr County and to the people of the Starr County Democratic Party. We're tired of business as usual. Drastic times require what? Drastic measures, yes! Who said that? Thank you! Drastic times require drastic measures. We will not tolerate incompetence and irresponsibility any longer. Now is the time to snap the Democratic stranglehold on the Treasurer's Office in two. And I harken back to what my friend Alex just said. He ran against the Treasurer in 1996. It was a problem then, it's a problem now. Infestation. Politics is not touch football. Politics is winner take all. It always has been, and it always will be. If nominated tonight, I want to develop and expand my campaign for what I believe is the greatest strength of the Starr County Republican Party, and that is its people. I believe in the axiom that all politics is local. And because of this belief, I want to harness the thoughts and ideas that individuals in our party have concerning Starr County and its political subdivisions. And use that to its fullest extent. Knowledge is power. Let's tap into this knowledge and use it as a tool to win the Treasurer's Office. Let's use this knowledge not only as a tool, but as a weapon. We must win this election. If nominated tonight, I will win this election. And I'm going to say that again so there's no miscommunication tonight. If nominated tonight, I win. Tell your friends, tell your neighbors, tell Randy Gonzalez. I'm coming. Both barrels, guns loaded. I believe in the entities and the principles of the National Republican Party, the State of Ohio Republican Party, and the Stark County Republican Party. And if nominated, I will not hide those beliefs on my march to victory on Election Day. If nominated tonight, I can guarantee with 100% certainty that what you are seeing from me tonight is what everyone outside those doors is going to get over the next 8 weeks. I used to be an idealistic thinker. I am now a pragmatic thinker. Government may be about service. Politics is about winning. Tonight, as a candidate seeking the Republican nomination for the position of Stark County Treasurer, I humbly ask for your vote as members of the Stark County Republican Party Executive Committee. Thank you.
Okay, that was a doozy. So before we even talk about like public speaking, what was something with that speech that you thought, what were some of the bad parts of that speech?
I know for like me personally, it was very distracting with him walking back and forth, and, like looking down, and like he was very, for me, that was hard to focus. I was like, wait, what?
Yeah, there was no intentionality in his movements. He seemed to just be like forcing movement. Absolutely.
Yeah, he seemed to be everywhere, which is very distracting for me. So
Right. Anyone
He
else?
seemed very angry. Like he was just trying to get his point across and hurry up and get out of there.
Yeah, exactly. Screaming at people. I like when he said, desperate times call for what? And someone answered. He's like, who said that? I'm like, ooh, I wouldn't. I'd be like, that wasn't me. It wasn't me.
He
Like,
didn't get it, right?
No, he did not win. He did get 15 minutes of fame, though. That video went viral in 2010. He was even on Tosh.0. I don't know if you recall that show that would look at viral videos on Comedy Central. And he got a good laugh at it because it's really not who he is. He just drank too much coffee, he said before. Tyler mentions he didn't know his speech at all. That's true. And we're going to talk about this a little bit because if you notice, he kept going back to the podium to look at his speech. And he corrected himself at times when he really didn't need to correct himself. We'll talk about that. His emotions were all over the place. Absolutely. Absolutely. Just wasn't very polished, and it could have been. And even the content of the speech wasn't horrible. I do know, I'm glad I'm not Randy Gonzalez because we're going after Randy Gonzalez. Anyway, do you think just by nodding, you all can do better speeches than that? I think you can too. So let's, now that you've seen the worst speech, and that is the only time I'm going to show you a bad speech. Well, actually, no, there might be a couple other times, but there'll be snippets of a bad speech. We are going to watch a lot of good speeches in this course, of course. And that's, I feel like, some of the best way to learn how to do good speech, do good speaking. So the speech communication process is pretty simple. Academics always like to make simple things complicated. So here's a nice academic complicated chart about how speaking works. And you have the speaker, which right now is me, right? I'm creating a message, I'm sending it over a channel. The channel is like the means of how I'm getting that message across. So right now I'm getting it across verbally and also visually, right? But mostly verbally. And then you are interpreting my message, right? And you're sending me feedback, okay? So that type of feedback is nonverbal in this case. So the type of feedback I'm getting just like right now is someone writing down, taking notes, someone looking at the computer, some screens with just names on it, right? That's all feedback. And so you're sending that back to me, the speaker, and I have to interpret that feedback as I continue to craft my message. So it's a real complicated way of putting it. But if you think about it, this is like what teachers do all the time. when, especially I'm talking about younger teachers for younger kids, like thinking of like the elementary school math teacher who's explaining the concept of long division to his or her students, and just kind of can tell the students aren't getting it. And it's like, so they just could could tell by the faces, right? Or they can tell that you're talking to your kids sometime if you have kids, and they're clearly not paying attention to you, or any kind of situation, you're interpreting that nonverbal feedback and it's helping you reshape that message. You're talking to your significant other and it's clear they're not listening to a word you're saying. You interpret that to either help you reshape your message, or in some cases stop the message. And then there's this lightning bolt is called interference, and that could be things that are not put into the message by the speaker and not given feedback by the listener, but things that just happen. It's the stuff that happens during it. So you could be speaking, let's say in a Zoom call, and your Wi-Fi gets messed up, right? Or your dog comes in and starts barking, right? That's interference. And that can interpret the message and sometimes skew the message as well. So we have different types of situations where we give speeches. These are all different types of different situations, like a wedding here. We have like a more formal business thing here, someone talking to kids. The situation really shapes how you're going to give your speech. If you're talking about how, if you're giving a good wedding toast, right? You're going to maybe share some stories depending on the audience at the wedding that you wouldn't necessarily share if you were talking to a group of kids, right? So you kind of shape your message depending on who you're with. We talked about the channel, classroom, over the phone, over Zoom. And then here's the feedback component of it. This is like, I swear, when my kids were doing Zoom school, especially like my high schooler, like this is what his screen looked like during the pandemic. And then interference, a lot of times, even if you're in a conference meeting or something like that, you're talking to people and they're all on their phones. It's like, oh, that's definite interference, because it means they're not paying attention to me. So when I do classes in person during the school year, and I see people on their phones, a lot of times I have their phone numbers because they've texted me a question or something. So then I'll just text them during the class. It's kind of fun and really works. So yeah, I love this little clip of interference. You may have seen this from BBC in 2017.
Scandals happen all the time. The question is, how do democracies respond to those scandals?
And what will it mean for the wider region? I think one of your children has just walked in. I mean, shifting sands in the region. Do you think relations with the North may change?
I would be surprised if they do. Pardon me. My apologies.
What's this going to mean for the region?
My apologies. South Korea's policy choices on North Korea have been severely limited in the last 6 months to a year. Because
I love that clip. And that was in 2017. So that was even before the pandemic. And I think as the pandemic happened, that happened all too frequently for all of us. And that's okay. Like, that's life. Life happens. So it's a matter of how are you going to overcome that interference? In his case, I don't think he did a good job there. If that was me and that happened, and I think we've gotten better with this because we were doing so many things on Zoom, you know, you kind of make a joke of it, right? You kind of keep it light. So as a speaker,
That's why you have the background.
Exactly. That's a good point. You put a background like I have in mind.
I think I'd be more concerned over that woman dragging the child out of the office than anything else.
And I love how she was kneeling, like, or she was crawling to close the door, like people can't see that. So as a speaker, there are some responsibilities you have to your audience. And the first thing is to not distort information. When we give speeches here, especially when we get to like our informative and persuasive speeches, we're going to talk about how important it is to be ethical in your speeches. Now, there's an election tomorrow. We see all kinds of political speeches now. And I will say, regardless of which party it is, politicians, for the most part, are not very good ethical speakers, right? And we'll talk a lot more about that later on, and why. But when you're speaking to give information in a setting like a class, or even in a professional environment, you're giving a business presentation, you're a nurse and you're speaking to a family about information on how they can, overcome or heal after the surgery or whatnot, you always want to be giving factual information. You want to have respect for your audience. And what this means is, it could mean a lot of things, but thinking about the audience and where they're at, you could probably tell maybe this is a church, right? So if I'm speaking to people in my church, I'm respecting them. I'm not going to say things that I know are going to piss them off, right? Like in my everyday lexicon, when I'm talking with my wife, when I'm talking with friends, heck, sometimes when I'm talking with kids, with my kids, I may cuss, right? Or I'll say things that I wouldn't say in a house of worship, because I'm respecting my audience and why they're there. Reject stereotyping and scapegoating. This is actually a picture of me and my wife on how my wife's in the room right now, so I was just staring at her. But this is a picture of us from Halloween a long time ago. It was at a Halloween ball, but you look at pictures of people and different things, you make some assumptions about your audience. You want to be careful because you really don't know what's happening there. And the last thing, this is so happy, enrich listeners' lives. Don't they look enriched? This was at a high school conference I spoke at. But you want people to come away from your speech with some information that helps them, right? Some information that they've either learned something new, or they got some information that was important for them for whatever reason, making them learn more. And the last thing, even if one person shows up, you still give your speech. Why do you think this is? How do you think this person feels if she's the only one who shows up to a speech and the person just says, "Oh, it's just you, so it's just one person. I'm not going to give the speech."
Makes them feel less valuable.
Yeah, it's like, well, who the hell am I? Right. I teach high school Sunday school at my church, and that's like the number one rule I have is if one kid shows up, that's enough. Like that's a Sunday school class there, because goodness gracious, I would hate to be the one person who's like, "Oh yeah, it's just you, so we're not going to do class right now." Now it might be less formal and we might do something more fun, but you still do it. So this is a quick assignment that I want you guys to do right now. I'm going to set you guys off into different groups, 4 groups of 2, 1 group of 3, and you are going to talk with your partner, introducing yourself to them with your name, major, hometown, and then just talk a little bit, very conversationally, answering one of these questions. You don't have to answer all 3, but answer one of these questions. So I'm going to give you about 4 or 5 minutes to do this with your partner. And then we'll come back as a group, and you can we'll give it to the entire class here. Now, once I split you guys off into groups, you won't see the screen. So I'll hop in and try to remind you, but basically the questions are, if they gave out an award for blank, I would certainly get first place, or I got in so much trouble when I blank, or you will not believe what happened when I blank. Okay. I think what I'll do is I'll copy and paste this and I'll put it up in Canvas. So if you want to see it there, you can see it. So let me go ahead and split you up into rooms. And once I hit this button, you'll be paired off with someone else. Yeah, what's up? No, but you can, oh, you need to, can you put the adobo's ready, basically. Sorry. It's ready to eat, and the rice is ready, and the corn is ready. I finished cooking it all. Correct. No. Welcome back.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I can hear you now. I couldn't hear her in my room.
Oh,
Or-
no.
Everybody
Yeah.
left.
And then the other lady just left.
Oh, okay. Did you guys get to finish?
No.
We didn't even start.
Oh,
we didn't
okay.
start.
Well, that's okay if you didn't start, because we will just, I'm going to close the rooms and you'll just basically, everyone's just going to introduce themselves in that same format. It's just a
Okay.
way to get everyone kind of talking with themselves, with each other.
Okay.
All right, I wonder if everyone else had that same problem. Let's see.
I don't know what it was. It was talking about my system preferences.
Yeah, that's interesting. All right.
This meeting is being recorded.
Were you guys able to hear each other in your breakout rooms? Okay, good. I know some people had a problem with that, but all right. Well, we got a few seconds. Everyone will be with us. I'm going to go ahead and put this up there just so everyone can see the question. And why don't we?
Can
go-
y'all hear me?
Yeah.
Sure.
Why don't we go ahead and get started? So whoever wants to go first, go ahead and introduce yourself. And again, the way you would introduce yourself is just by, this is very informal. You're not being graded on this. It's just by telling us your name, hometown, your major, and answering one of these questions. So whoever wants to do that
I'll go first.
go for it.
I'm Kayla Campbell. I was born and raised here in Habersham County, Georgia, in Cornelia to be exact. My major is early childhood education, and if they gave out an award for being late, I would certainly get first place 100%. I have 3 kids and a whole husband, so being on time to anything is next to impossible. And instead of the whole, oh, it's who I am as a person, which is what I've always been saying, there's this thing that says I'm working on it. I don't know if we're working on it because I feel like we're all a team, but we're getting a little better at it because I was on time for class today. So
That's awesome. You were. I like how you described him as a whole husband. Like I have 3 kids and a whole husband, not half of one. All
No.
right. Nice to meet you, Kayla. Who's next?
I'll go.
Okay.
My name's Marla Coker, and I don't know if I have a hometown right now. I mean, I was born and raised in California, lived there until my late 20s. And then we moved to Florida, lived there for about 20 years. And now we're here in Blairsville, Georgia. So I guess I'm claiming Blairsville at the moment as my hometown. But I feel like I've had homes everywhere I've been. So, so there's that. And my major is in speech language pathology. So communications is obviously a huge part of that. So that's why I'm in this course.
Great.
And if they gave me an award for anything, it would be for talking. I can talk. I am more comfortable. I'm also an educational sign language interpreter. So I feel more, I could give you a whole sign language presentation and interpret for you for about 500 people, but talking in small groups is probably a little bit more difficult.
That's awesome. Well, I'm glad you're here to help us communicate. All right, who's next?
I can go next.
Okay.
So I'm Catherine Howard. My hometown is Grayson, Georgia. My major is middle school education, which is a fun one. And if they gave out an award for anything, I definitely would get first place if it was clumsy, because I can't walk in a straight line. I bump in, trip over anything, over my own 2 feet. So that would definitely be my award where I get first place.
Well, I'm glad you're sitting for most of the class, so you should be okay.
That's my safe zone right there.
Nice to meet you, Catherine.
Nice to meet you.
Who's up next?
I'll go.
Okay.
My name is Patricia Barton. My hometown is Gainesville, Georgia, and my major is elementary education. And if they give out an award for walking in the men's bathroom on accident, I would certainly get first place.
Oh my gosh. How many times
All
does
the
that happen?
All the
Really?
time, my whole life. I don't know what it is. I did it. I teach. I'm a parapro at our elementary school here, and today was awards day for some of the other classes. I was talking to somebody and walked right in the men's bathroom.
Wow.
Was not paying attention. That was totally embarrassing. So, yeah.
Well, again, happy it's on an online class. So
Exactly.
who's up next?
I'll go.
Okay.
My name is Joy Carter. I live in Toccoa with my husband. My major is early childhood education. And if they gave out an award for being clumsy, I hate to tell you, I would get that first place because I am a
Ooh.
danger to myself.
We'd have some
I'm
competition there, it looks like, though.
I'm telling you,
But-
it's serious stuff. I can't cook without cutting myself or burning myself. And I trip over my own 2 feet. Oh, and I drive a school bus, so it's always interesting when you can do all that and drive as well. So
Nice to meet you, Joy. Who's up next?
I'll go.
Okay.
My name is Megan. I'm from Franklin County, Georgia. My major is forensic science, and if they gave out an award for sassiness, I think I would get first place.
Ah.
Because
That
I
could-
always speak my mind. I always have a little attitude.
That could probably answer that second question too. There has to be one time when you like your sassiness just was the end of you. Got the best of you.
Too many times.
Nice to meet you, Megan. Who's up next?
I can go.
Okay.
My name is Jenny or Jennifer, and I'm from Gainesville. And my major is nursing. And if I was to get an award for something, I think it would be I'm very OCD. I like cleaning. I don't like crumbs anywhere. Everything has to be organized. So I guess that would be my award.
Okay.
Mhm.
Nice to meet you, Jen. All right. We got either Mackenzie or Tyler or Morgan.
I'll go.
Okay.
So now my name is Mackenzie. I'm from Greensboro, Georgia. My major is nursing as well. And I was going to say the same thing. I'm overly organized. I'm in nursing school right now at Piedmont. And I definitely think that it's hard sometimes because I think about being organized way too often. And it kind of bites me in the butt sometimes. So.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's a good quality to have, but I bet you it drives you crazy sometimes.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. Nice to meet you, Mackenzie.
Nice to meet you.
All right, Morgan or
I'll go.
okay.
My name is Tyler Zlacki.
Tyler.
My hometown is Flowery Branch, Georgia. My major is sports and fitness administration. And if they give out an award for sleeping in all the time, I would certainly get that first place. I sleep in all the time, and I probably shouldn't do that, but it just happens. So yeah,
You like your sleep, huh?
I do.
Fair enough. I'm the same way in the summer, at least. All right, and last but not least.
Hi, I'm Morgan. I'm originally from Ohio. My major is nursing, and if they gave out an award for just worst parking, I would definitely get first place. I can't park to save my life.
Even in like a parking lot?
Yeah, like
Yeah.
sometime I'll somehow end up over the line every single
Oh my
time,
gosh.
and I have to readjust my parking. So
Oh, so that's you.
yeah,
Okay.
it's me.
Okay, now I know. Well, I won't be so mad next time. Well, great. Nice to know and meet all of you. We did hit everyone, right? I think we did. Nice to meet all of you. You all did a quick speech there, and you did it better than our candidate for treasurer in Stark County, Ohio. So congratulations. This is just a quick guide to public speaking, and we'll go over all of this in much more detail over the semester. But the first part of your preparation is understanding who your audience is, okay? In this class, it's always going to be the same people, but that, like I mentioned earlier, determines how you're going to shape your speech. You also have to understand the topic that you're going to be talking about, and that is something that either in this class you'll choose, but externally you may not have that choice if you're doing it for work or whatnot, but you need to make sure you really understand it, because if your boss, let's say you're working wherever, and your boss says, hey, I need you to give a talk to this group about this, and you really don't know what this is, then you really need to learn that, because it's going to become very clear when you're speaking that you have no idea what you're talking about. And then you also want to develop your central idea, which is the main thing you want your listeners to come away with. And then your purpose. Why are you giving this speech? So there could be a variety of reasons. For instance, you could be giving a talk where you're trying to encourage people to do something. You're trying to encourage people to recycle, right? Or you might be giving a speech where you're just talking about the new recycling technology at this plant, which is more informative. So you want to understand why you're doing it. The next things you want to prepare is finding your materials for your speech. I look at it like an organization, or like a tree rather. You have your roots, your stem, which is kind of the main idea of the speech, and then everything else is kind of the branches are your main points, and then the leaves are your subpoints and your supporting material. And you need to plan all of this, and we'll give you steps on how to plan all of this in the speech. Part 3, working on your introduction and conclusion and developing an outline. This is a little different than what you might think, but usually you work on the body, the supporting material on your speech first, and then you do your introduction and conclusion last. And then part 4 is if you want any speaking notes to work off of, you write those, and then you practice, practice, practice. Then as you're delivering the speech, okay, you want to start strong, approach confidently, maintain eye contact with your listeners, and just have some self-confidence when you give the speech. Step 2, you want to make sure you're not talking too fast or too slow. You want to make sure you're talking in a proper volume, and you want to make sure you're not coming off like a robot, that you're showing some emotion. And this is especially true, even more so, I've found in teaching this class in person and online over Zoom. This is more true on Zoom because it's so easy to just come off very like bland on Zoom. And then step 3 in your delivery is your movement. We're not really going to move in Zoom when we're doing a Zoom speech, but you could use gestures, your posture and poise. Like if I gave the whole talk like this, it pretty much shows like I don't care, right? And then how you're going to use your notes in your speech. And the last thing is showing enthusiasm, and I call it that drop the mic ending. All these things in terms of preparation and delivery, we're going to go into a lot more detail throughout the semester, but that is basically the big things that we're going to focus on. And the number one tip, if there's one thing you take away from this class as a whole, it's to treat speeches like conversations. Okay, the whole thing that we're trying to do here is create conversational speakers. Those are the best speakers. Just think about it. When you hear someone speak, whether it's a preacher or whether it's a TED Talk or whether it's a professor, whoever it is, think about it. The best speeches are conversational. They make you feel, now it's not like they're talking and you're answering them, but they make you feel like, oh, wow, like he's engaging me or she's engaging me. Like they make you feel like you're part of the speech in a way. That's what you should treat speeches like. Treat them like conversations. With that said, this is, in my opinion, one of the best speeches I've ever seen. There's actually a world championship of speeches every year of public speaking. That's done by this group called Toastmakers. There used to be a group in Athens, it's now defunct, but Toastmakers is a society where they basically give different types of speeches, and you go and you meet with other people at a restaurant that they rent out, and then you give speeches. I know, sounds really riveting. Why would people put themselves through this? But they hold an international competition every year, and this is the winning speech from 2014.
Dhananjaya Hediyarachi. Dhananjaya Hediyarachi.
You and I are not very different from this flower. Just like this flower is unique, you are unique. All of us has something special that makes us as beautiful. Do you know what makes you special? Now the answer to that can be a little difficult to find, because sometimes life has a cruel way of picking out your petals, breaking you in two, and throwing you into the trash. And when you're broken, it's very difficult to feel special. Mr. Contest Chair, my fellow flowers, I can remember the first time I broke. I was 17 years old. I had already flunked high school and managed to get myself arrested. Now, I wasn't afraid of the cops, but there was one person I was very afraid of, and that was my mama. Raise your hand if you have an emotional mother. Let me see. Put them all together, you get mama. I can hear her scream outside the police station. Even the cops were afraid. She came up to me, held the iron bars, looked into my eyes, and I saw a tear coming down her face. Now, I've seen my mama cry before, but mothers cry 3 types of tears. Tears of joy, tears of sorrow, and tears of shame. And when a son sees a mother cry tears of shame, that's a life-changing moment. She looked at me and said, "Son, I want you to be a better man." That night, when I drove home, my dad was waiting for me at home. Now, my dad is a cool dad. Raise your hand if you have a cool dad. Put them all together, you get my dad. My dad came up to me and said, "Son, it's okay. You flunked your exams. You already got arrested. That's fine. You get that from your mother's side. I want you to start working immediately." And I said, "Okay." So my dad took me to meet one of his friends called Sam. Now, Sam was an accountant who had an accounting firm and had generously decided to make me his personal assistant. And there he was. He looked like a teddy bear. But this man was special. I looked at him, and he looked at me. And then he said the most amazing thing. He said, "Son, I see something in you, but I don't know what it is. If you decide to work with me, I can help you find that something. And I was like, whoa, that's the first time in my whole life somebody has ever told they see something in me. And I started working for Sam. And every day after work, he used to tell me stories about the world, about history, about culture, about philosophy. And it was much more interesting than what I learned in school. And I discovered I can dream. And I started dreaming, ladies and gentlemen. After 1 year, I went back into high school, completed my exams, and went into college. After successfully completing college, I found a great girl, but not a job. I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. Have you ever had that problem? And when you're lost, it's difficult to feel special. So I went back to my cool dad. And I said, Dad, I feel lost. He said, you are like your mother. So my dad introduced me to this strange club that had a strange name, with strange people talking. On the first meeting, they told me to do something called a table topic. I aced it. But while I was speaking, I see a strange man seated in the back row. Humble, simple. The unfailing quality of kindness in his eyes. As soon as I finished, he walked up to me, looked me dead straight in the eye, and said, son, I see something in you. But I don't know what it is. If you come here twice a month, maybe we can find that something. And ladies and gentlemen, I discovered I could speak, and I love speaking. And that led me to become a teacher. I know what it's like to not have enough money in your bank account. I know what it's like to worry when the bills start coming in. And sometimes, in the middle of the night, I wake up my beautiful wife and I ask her, honey, why did you marry me? She says, I saw something in you. But I still don't know what it is. Ladies and gentlemen, today I'm a dreamer, I'm a speaker, and I learned the unfailing quality of unconditional love from my wife. I was broken, and I've been broken, lost, and broke many times in my life. But the people in my life were able to reach into the trash can and make me whole again. If it was up to me, I would have never been able to do that. And this is why if you have great people in your life, no matter how broke, how lost, or how broken you become, they can piece you back together. Ladies and gentlemen, when I look at you, I see something in you. But I don't know what it is. Over to you.
I just love that speech. But that is, you know, top of the line, international world champion public speaker. And let's take a little break. Let's take like a 7-minute break. I'll put a countdown clock here on and we'll come back in like 7 minutes. And then we will talk about your little bit about nervousness and then about your speech assignment for 2 weeks. So we'll take a quick break. I want to briefly talk about managing nervousness. I'm not going to go over my entire presentation regarding nervousness, but I'll post the entire thing because I really want to go over the commemoration speeches, and I want to honor my promise of being done by 8 o'clock tonight. So first things first, you should see a poll pop up on your screen. Just curious of your thoughts here. Public speaking is the #1 blank fear in the world. So is it the #1 biggest fear, #2 second biggest fear, or #3 third biggest fear? Yeah, you guys got it right. So 50% of you voted for #2, and that's correct. Public speaking is the second biggest fear in the world. Any guesses as to what's #1?
I would think death.
Death?
Dying. That's what I was
Yeah.
gonna say.
You know, actually, that is not #1. And you know what? I would think that that would be #1 too. It's actually heights is #1. I think spiders is #3, but you're right. Death. That's you're the first person to ever say that, and that's right. That should be up there because most people are afraid of dying.
I'm less afraid of death and I'm less afraid of death than I am public speaking.
Really? Okay. So there you go. And that's very common. And that's the whole reason why I want to, just show you that, is because public speaking is a very common fear, and it's okay to have that fear. So some tips to get over that fear. One is to recognize why you get nervous, perhaps when you speak in public. Some of the things might be this fear of being stared at, right? All of a sudden, when you're in the crowd, it's fine, but all of a sudden when you're in front and everyone's looking at you, that can be very intimidating. Fear of failure or rejection, this concern that you're not going to give your talk appropriately, or you're not going to do a good job on it, or that people are going to shun you. Honestly, this is why I could never be a salesman, because that rejection just crushes me. So, but I understand a lot of people who are have that fear of public speaking, have a fear of rejection from the audience. Fear of the unknown. You have no idea what's going to happen because of all those interference things we talked about. You don't know. You could have a great presentation lined up that relies on PowerPoint, and you go somewhere and boom, find out either there's no projector or the projector's broken, right? So all these little fears we have can scare us. And then, just like anything, PTSD in public speaking is real. You may have had an experience in the past where you gave a speech. Even as a kid, you could have gone up in front of the classroom and everyone laughed at you, and that's real. And sometimes that applies to public speaking, and it's really hard to overcome that. And then some people have just general anxiousness of getting up around people and being around people, social anxiety. All these reasons for nervousness are very legit, and it's important to acknowledge them. One of the main things that psychologists say that helps you overcome your fear is, and this is where the fear of death would not be a good example, because you wouldn't die to overcome your fear of death, but to do the thing you fear. This is my mom. Isn't she cute? She's 82 now, but I had no idea. We went to Savannah a couple years ago, and we went to the crab shack, I think, where they have alligators outside. And holy smoke, my little Filipino mom is terrified of alligators. I would have never known. And so I was really trying to encourage her to feed the alligators. And I was very slow and very patient, and eventually she did it. And she never wants to do it again, but that's okay, because she did it. She confronted her fear. Fear is also something that is a positive in speaking, in performing. Or actors have that fear, or musicians might have that fear of the audience when they're performing, or athletes have it, because it's something that makes your adrenaline go. It makes you perform better. I'm talking about tension and athletes. If you've ever played a sport before, every sport has that moment. I'm thinking basketball at the free throw line. That's one of the biggest things. Volleyball and you're serving, baseball or softball and you're up to bat. All those moments, it's like everyone's looking at you. It all relies on you, and you have to follow through on that. So having some fear, having some tension is okay, but you just don't want to have that crippling tension, right? You want to have enough tension that you can turn it into energy, but you don't want to have no tension at all, because then you're basically, it's going to come off like you don't care. So having some of that nervous anxiety when you're giving a speech is okay. It's okay. It's good to have. You just need to develop strategies to help make that not be something that's crippling to your ability to give a speech. So here's some tips to give a speech and overcome that anxiety. One of the things you'll be able to do in this class is you'll be able to speak about a topic you know a lot about. So something that you're already interested in. So learning about it will be fun and you'll become the expert on it. Preparation is the key to giving any good speech. Doing your research, figuring out your roadmap for your speech. Now, one thing we'll never do in this class, and you should never do, is memorize a speech. Okay, you want to be familiar with the speech, but you should never memorize a speech, because as I mentioned earlier, we want speaking to be like a conversation, right? And conversations are natural. They're not things that you're remembering to say to the T and then performing it. That's the difference between public speaking, let's say, and being in theater, right? If you're in theater, you memorize the lines, right? You have to not only memorize the lines, but you have to memorize where you need to be on the stage, because it all flows together. If you screw up a line, you could screw up your fellow actor on stage who might get messed up because you messed up a line. If you're not in the right place on the stage at the right time, the spotlight isn't going to know where to hit you. Public speaking isn't any of that. You're the one who is in control of your speech. You're the one who knows your speech. So recognize that the majority of the time when you mess up, 99% of the time when you feel you've messed up, the audience hasn't seen anything. They haven't recognized anything. It's all the pressure that you're putting on yourself. So we don't memorize speeches. Imagine yourself, visualize yourself giving an effective speech in front of that audience that you're going to give your speech to. Dream about it. If you think about it, how golfers do, especially like when they're putting, you see all the work they do. They kind of kneel down, they look at the hole while they're kneeling down, and then they kind of do a couple practice putts on the side. Like they're visualizing when they do that, making that shot. And know that if you're shy, if you have some social anxiety, that's okay. Lady Gaga here is very shy. She suffers from social anxiety and incredibly introverted. You would never know that, right? Because of her not outlandish, I don't mean to be negative connotation, because of her, I can't think of a word, but because of her just very elaborate costumes and everything like that, you wouldn't think that, but she is very shy and overcomes that in her speech. That's kind of why she dresses up so unlike herself at times, or at least used to. So when you're planning, you want to understand what your visuals are, what your arrangements are, wherever you're giving the speech. You want to make sure the focus is on the audience and not yourself. So when you're speaking, You want to think about how you can get the audience involved simply by using you verbiage instead of me and I verbiage. Let's see here. Change that self-talk from that you can't do it to that you can do it. Yes, Kayla.
Sorry, I'm trying to figure this out, and I feel
Yeah.
like I'm 2 miles behind you now. But
No problem.
I was gonna add, sometimes, like, even I went through this in high school, and I mean, I'll talk somebody's ears off now, but I was shy in high school, but I kind of found that, like, the people that I hung out with that kind of dress like, as they call it, emo, or did call it emo, like, those were the ones that wanted to be left alone because they were almost as if they were scary. They were unapproachable. So, like, I can feel that with, like, Lady Gaga, and then going on and, like, intertwining that and piggybacking off of, like, speeches. If you walk into a room and you're all colorful and look like a clown, then the audience is probably going to look at you as more of like a clown. Whereas if you looked dull and or not really dull, because dull and professional is not the same, but I hope you
I
get
know
what
what
I
you
mean.
mean.
But, like,
Yeah.
that has a lot to do with it as well. So appearance, I guess, is a huge thing too. I don't know why I wanted to say that. I'm sorry.
No, that's such a very valid point, and it also helps overcome nervousness because you want to dress to impress, and that's used a lot. That term, that cliche is used a lot, like in job interviews and stuff like that. But it's appropriate for any situation. If I'm going to talk to my baseball kids, my 11-year-old baseball team, I'm going to my favorite thing when I first meet them, I'll wear like a Cookie Monster shirt that says "Need more cookies" or something like that, and right away it endears them. It endears myself to them. Stuff like that. Absolutely, how you dress is so important. Just changing that self-talk. This is a very psychological thing, and then before the speech, understand what you have available to you. Understand where the audience is and what they're like. Release tension in a way that's suitable for you and the environment. This is a little 5-minute video about meditation that I won't play right now, but I've actually found this to be very helpful. And this is Dan Harris is a news journalist who wrote a book about meditation. And then during the speech, pause a few moments before starting, so that way you can just kind of take a deep breath and just get yourself focused. Remember, it's not a performance, it's a conversation. The spotlight isn't on you, the spotlight is on everyone. As I mentioned, most symptoms are not seen, right? You get tongue-tied, it's okay, because it's a conversation. That happens to us all the time in conversation. So people will not even catch that. Never ever mention you're nervous or apologize before the speech, because, and this is a common thing when people go up to speak, they'll go up and say, "I'm sorry, I'm so nervous." Well, what did you just do there? You just gave every member of the audience a cue that you're nervous, and then they will become analytical of you. It's just human nature. Oh, you see how she messed up there? She said she was nervous, so I get that. So you never want to say you're nervous, right? Just go up there, have that confidence, and also don't apologize. Like, "I'm sorry that I wish I would have prepared, or I didn't have as much time to prepare for my speech as I wanted to." Like, no, don't give that. Even if that's true, you don't apologize, because then again, people are going to be looking for holes in what you're speaking about. Don't let listener reactions upset you, their facial reactions, whatever. You just need to keep going through it. You don't know what necessarily is happening with them, or what their concerns are. And then just act poised, relaxed, be comfortable when you give your speech. Fake it till you make it. I love that. So that's a little bit on managing nervousness. And now let's go into the speech that you're going to give next week, and that is the commemorative speeches. Okay. Okay, so the reason why your first speech that I want you to give is a commemorative speech, because the commemorative speech is the one speech that it's okay to read word for word from. So it's something that you prepare in advance. You can write it down word for word, and you should read from it. You do want to practice, so it doesn't sound like you're just reading, a book or something like that. And some of us may have given commemorative speeches before. There are three main types. There are toasts, there are awards and honor speeches, and then there's eulogies. Okay, those are the three main types. There's other types of commemorative speeches, but those are the three main types of speeches that you'll give. For whichever one of these you do, and you can do any of these, there's some questions you need to think about and ask yourself as you plan for the speech. What is the central message of the speech? What is it that you want listeners to come away with? Okay. All these speeches involve other people, so the central message should revolve around these other people. How do you want your audience to feel after your speech? For example, if you're given a eulogy, you want your audience to kind of have their heart warmed, right, by your speech. You want them to remember your loved one in a really positive manner. And then, how do you want to be remembered as a speaker for this event? Obviously, I would hope that you would want people to remember, oh, that was a really good toast, or that was a really good a speech you gave up there. So let's start with toast. The most common type of toast is a wedding toast. Has anyone here ever given a wedding toast out of curiosity? Kind of. Patricia, you have. Catherine, you're like kind of. How did that go?
I gave it for my sister when she got married.
Okay.
Because it was family.
Mm-hmm.
And it was something I was very familiar with. I spoke from the heart, so
that's great.
It went very well.
That's great. Why did you say kinda, Catherine?
So it was my mom's wedding, and we were all a little younger then, so she let us give a few. She let us give like a few words and like a couple minutes, but we didn't have like a long drawn out toast. But it was like maybe a 2-minute, 3-minute thing.
That's really cool. Wow, at a young age, that's awesome. I would have loved to see that. Yeah, a toast, that's the most common type of toast, is a wedding toast. There's also like retirement party toasts, or any kind of, excuse me, tribute you might give to someone. The key, as Kayla said, 2 to 3 minutes. The key to an effective toast is to keep it short and sweet, right? You want to first give a little self-introduction, so you can give some context to the audience and show how you're connected to the couple, if it's a wedding, or the person who's being honored. So very quick self-introduction speech, remembering that the whole point of the toast isn't about you, it's about the person you're speaking with, but people still need to know who you are. And then you want to carefully choose memories, stories, quotes, etc., that best describe who you are celebrating. Stories always work really well for toast. We've all seen a wedding toast of some sort, I would think, or at least even in a movie or something. The one thing you need to be careful of is be careful of what information you choose to disclose. I've never been at a wedding like this, but I've heard of horror stories where the best man, the maid of honor, whoever gets up to give a toast at a wedding. Like, let's say it's a friend of the groom or a friend of the bride, and they get a little maybe too raunchy for Mima, who's sitting in the audience. So recognizing what you want to disclose, what information you want to disclose, it's always a good idea to, if there is something that you have a question about, to ask your friend or whoever the honoree is, hey, remember that story about blah blah, is it okay if I mention that? And just see what they say. Now if it's something that is like embarrassing, but embarrassing in a funny way, not like embarrassing like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you would tell that story, you probably don't want to check with your friend, because that's your chance to embarrass them. When in doubt, leave it out. That's kind of the slogan. If you're not sure if you should say something, if there's that part in your brain, something on you that says she's not really gonna like this or he's not really gonna like this, then don't do it. Don't even bother, because again, the toast is to honor that person. And then typically, you have the audience raise a glass at the close of a toast. And you want the audience to feel engaged. So this is a wedding toast that is pretty good, that we'll take a look at.
I'm gonna grab this. Good evening. Once again, I am Lorena, the maid of honor and sister of the bride. Nancy has another sister, Erica, who actually studied wedding planning, but I somehow got stuck with as maid of honor. And let me tell you, it carries a lot of responsibilities. This toast, for example, when I first started preparing for it, I remembered thinking, wow, my sister is getting married in 10 minutes. And so here we all are today in honor of Nancy and Samir's union. But anyone who really knows Nancy knows that she's using this wedding as an excuse to dance salsa. Let me see a show of hands of anybody who's received a lesson or danced alongside Nancy. That's what I thought. What many don't know is that Nancy actually taught me, out of all people, to dance salsa. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And cha-cha, bachata, merengue, cumbias, and this weird squat down, pop your butt, air in the move and shake. Basically, she taught me how to party. Growing up, I was the introvert and Nancy the extrovert. Whether I liked it or not, Nancy somehow always managed to pull me up onto center stage with her, taking me along on all her wild adventures and teaching me everything that I wouldn't have normally learned in school. That is a great thing about having a sister. You really don't have to do anything solo if you don't want to. Together, Nancy and I have gotten lost in the streets of Spain. We've changed a tire in Costa Rica during torrential rains, and we browsed through hundreds of bridal dresses without going insane. I truly believe sisters are God's way of proving to us that we never have to be alone in this world. We are meant to have and be in relationships. And in Samir's case, he traveled halfway across the world, all the way from Egypt, just to find his perfect relationship, his soulmate, and now his wife. In the Bible, King Solomon discussed the importance of relationships. He wrote in Ecclesiastes, 2 are better than 1. For if one falls, the other is there to lift him up. If at night one gets cold, the other is there to keep him warm. Although one may be overpowered, two can defend themselves. And I'll go ahead and add one more that King Solomon forgot to include. Two are better than one, because it's better to dance with a partner than by yourself. So Nancy and Samir, together as a married couple, you are better than one. Don't forget to support each other through the tough times, keep each other warm at night, cherish and protect one another, and don't forget to dance. Before I conclude, I do want to give Samir some advice on handling my sister. Samir, do you remember when you were first learning to dance salsa, you had to keep reminding yourself that the guy needs to start on the left foot? You remember that? Well, this is going to help your dancing skills and your marriage if you remember it this way. The woman is always right. So I'd like to propose a toast to Nancy and Samir. May your marriage be like fine wine, getting better and better with age. Congratulations.
That was a pretty damn good wedding toast there. All right. Get out of this. There we go. Okay, so that is a toast. Award and honor is another type of speech. Now, this is a type of speech that there's two different types. It's giving an award speech, or you're receiving an award speech. Now, this might be something that you might think, oh, I'll never have to do this, but because we always think of big awards, right? But no, like in your school, you might give an award to a student, right? You might give an award to another teacher. In your job, you might be asked to, or like in your church or in a public service element, you might be asked to give an award. And this is again where you're honoring someone, or you're accepting an award, honoring something or recognizing something that you've done. So if you're giving an award to someone, and this is most common, you have to understand what is the history and significance of the award and kind of explain that. Recognize the accomplishments of the award recipient and why they were selected. Understand the impact of the award, and you want to give a closing that really recognizes the significance of the moment or the achievement of the individual, okay? If you're receiving an award, most commonly, you'll thank people who helped you get there, helped you get to that moment. You want to use your voice to amplify awareness of the event. It's become common for people to talk about pressing political issues related to that award, show humility, and communicate gratitude. So let's look at a couple examples here. This is the one that is not so good, which is okay because Merritt Weaver won an Emmy for Nurse Jackie, and she recognizes that this speech was not a very good speech.
And the Emmy goes to Merritt Weaver, Nurse Jackie. This is the first Emmy win and second consecutive nomination for Merritt Weaver. She cut her acting teeth at LaGuardia Arts Public High School in New York City.
Thank you so, oh no, thanks so much. Thank you so much. I gotta go, bye.
Now, maybe as a viewer of the Emmy Awards that year, you would appreciate that speech. But she had said she's someone also that is very nervous as a public speaker, and she just kind of froze in that moment. Here's a pretty good acceptance of speech.
Oh, oh my God. My mom is in here somewhere. I love you. I love you, lady. My family, thank you for all of this. You know, my dad didn't get to see me do any of this. He's not, but I think he's looking down on me right now. So this is a monumental moment. One, I'm so appreciative to all of you, to everyone who has had a hand in getting me here, to the Academy, to people who took a chance on me every step of the way, Graham King, Dennis O'Sullivan, everyone at Fox and New Regency, thank you guys so much. I may not have been the obvious choice, but I guess it worked out. Thank you, Queen. Thank you guys for allowing me to be the tiniest part of your phenomenal, extraordinary legacy. I am forever in your debt. My crew and my cast, I love you. You are my equals. You are my betters. I could have never been here without you. I think about what it would have been like to tell little Bubba Rami that one day this might happen to him, and I think his curly-haired little mind would be blown. That kid was struggling with his identity, trying to figure himself out, and I think to anyone struggling with theirs and trying to discover their voice, listen, we made a film about a gay man, an immigrant who lived his life just unapologetically himself. And the fact that I'm celebrating him and this story with you tonight is proof that we're longing for stories like this. I am the son of immigrants from Egypt. I'm a first-generation American, and part of my story is being written right now, and I could not be more grateful to each and every one of you and everyone who believed in me for this moment. It is something I will treasure for the rest of my life. Lucy Boynton, you're the heart of this film. You are beyond immensely talented. You have captured my heart. Thank you so much.
So that speech was so powerful because not only did he thank everyone he wanted to, he kind of sent a message to everyone who, in accepting that award, who is a dreamer, and gave them reason to dream. The last type of speech you might give is a eulogy. And a eulogy is something that you give at a funeral or a memorial service to honor the life of someone who has died. The important thing with a eulogy is to focus on the person who is being honored, whose life is being honored. So it's a good idea, especially for a eulogy, to practice your eulogy, right? Because this is one of those things you really want to get right, because everyone there is sad usually. So you really want to make sure it's polished as possible. This is the type of speech you really want other people to go over with you. Like, you want to practice giving that in front of them. Extemporaneous delivery, what that means is you're giving a speech without writing it down. It can be effective if you're really trying to connect with the audience, but not for a eulogy. It's probably best not to do that. And then having that manuscript, having that thing that has your speech written out is really important for a eulogy, because it's often we get emotional when we're delivering speeches like this. You still want to make sure that you are looking at your audience and giving that eye contact and respecting the environment of the space that you're in. Here was a great eulogy given by Billy Crystal to Robin Williams. And then I'm going to give you a eulogy that I gave as well.
He made us laugh hard every time you saw him on television, movies, nightclubs, arenas, hospitals, homeless shelters for our troops overseas, and even in a dying girl's living room for her last wish. He made us laugh big time. I spent many happy hours with Robin on stage. I mean, the brilliance was astounding. The relentless energy was kind of thrilling. I used to think if I could just put a saddle on him and stay on for 8 seconds, I was going to do okay. Robin, Whoopi, and I once were in Shea Stadium in the broadcast booth with the great Tim McCarver. It was Comic Relief Day for the New York Mets, and Robin knew nothing about baseball. I asked him, what's your favorite team? And he said, the San Franciscos. So he was a little lost in the conversation, so I got an idea, and I said, you know, Tim, we have a great Russian baseball player with us. And I looked over, his eyes got all bright, his ears perked up. It was like he was a little dog that was inside all day, and the master came and said, hey, you want to go for a walk? So I said, what's baseball like in Russia? Without missing a beat, he said, well, we only have one team, the Reds. Well, the next pitch, the batter foul went off. It came screaming back at us. We ducked down. It slammed against the wall. Robin turned around and bounced into his hands, and he stood up and screamed, I love America, I'm gonna defect. He could be funny anywhere. We were such close friends. He would come to all of our great family functions, weddings, bar mitzvahs, that kind of thing. And he would sit with my older immigrant relatives, like he was one of the guys. And he would tell them about his journey from his little shtetl in Poland to America. One uncle of mine said, I came to America after World War II and I hitchhiked. And Robin said, I waited till there was a 747 and a kosher meal. Well, as genius as he was on stage, he was the greatest friend you could ever imagine. Supportive, protective, loving. It's very hard to talk about him in the past because he was so present in all of our lives. For almost 40 years, he was the brightest star in a comedy galaxy. But while some of the brightest of our celestial bodies are actually extinct now, their energy long since cooled, but miraculously, because they float in the heavens so far away from us now, their beautiful light will continue to shine on us forever. And the glow will be so bright, it'll warm your heart, it'll make your eyes glisten, and you'll think to yourselves, Robin Williams, what a concept. And yet look,
Okay. Some of the other special type of speeches you might give is a speech of introduction, where you're introducing another speaker, who, like a keynote speaker or something like that. In that case, you want to establish the credibility of the speaker and be very brief, and you want to make sure you run everything by with the speaker. And then there's an entertaining speech you could give where you're trying to entertain the audience. You want to be respectful of your audience. Use the rule of threes. That's something that comedians use all the time, and speech writers use as well, is people think in threes. So you give 3 examples. And self-deprecation is always good for entertaining speeches, and let the audience in on the joke. So let's, we don't need to go over these other types of speeches here. What I want to do is I want to give you my eulogy speech that I actually wrote. It wasn't at a memorial service. It was actually at a school event. And I have this posted on Canvas. And it was a speech for a student, mass communication student at Piedmont who died in a car accident. And the tricky thing about this speech was it was in the within the first month of the semester. So even though she was a student in my class, I didn't really know her too well, but I was the most appropriate person to give this speech. And here it was. And again, the text of this is in Canvas for you to take a look at. Hello, I'm Joe Dennis, Chair of the Mass Communications Department here at Piedmont. I was Anna's advisor, as well as her Piedmont 1101 instructor. At Piedmont, faculty, staff, and students develop strong bonds with each other. We're all part of the Piedmont family. Anna's time here was way too short, but through summer orientation, freshman welcome week activities, and the first week of school, Anna made an impact on those who were fortunate to interact with her. A fellow freshman said that after meeting at orientation, Anna became her friend here at Piedmont. It was their mutual love for comic books that drew them together. Anna had plans to work for Marvel Studios after graduation. She said Anna was a really kind person and was very easy to talk to, and I will remember her always. Another classmate said that Anna was one of the most kind-hearted people she ever met, adding that her Christianity was evident in her interactions with others. Anna's orientation leader said that Anna was shy, but once you found a common interest, like comic books, she would come out of her bubble and her warm, caring, and beautiful personality would come through. Most impressively, when Anna was engaged in conversation, she would always make sure to include her peers, not leaving any person feel isolated from the discussion. One of Anna's mass communication professors recalled how on the first day of class, they discussed how language shapes our reality and how we make sense of the world around us. The professor said it was evident that the Word of God shaped Anna's reality and guided her everyday interactions. Although Anna's time at Piedmont was short, she immediately became a beloved member of our Piedmont family. And even for those of us who didn't get the chance to know Anna directly, I get this feeling that we'll never forget her. So that was kind of a eulogy speech for Anna Whitlock. And I also posted in Canvas another type of speech that I delivered when I was introducing someone, a keynote speaker. Let's see if I could. It was an introduction, a speech of introduction. And I was introducing Samira Jafari, who is a friend of mine, but she works at CNN. And the way I gave this speech, and I'll let you read word for word, and because I did read it word for word, but again, it's not like you're reading it. You can't, or I didn't go up there and go, I'm Joe Dennis, Director of the Georgia Scholastic Press Association. It's my honor to present tonight. You know, you have to give some emotion with it. I'm Joe Dennis, Director of the Georgia Scholastic Press Association. It's my honor to present tonight's keynote speaker, Samira Jafari. Samira graduated from the University of Georgia in 2002 with degrees in journalism and criminal justice. While at UGA, she worked at the student newspaper, The Red and Black, eventually serving as editor-in-chief. After graduation, Samira spent 5 years with the Associated Press as a newswoman in Atlanta, as well as Montgomery, Alabama. She was also a correspondent for the Pikeville, Kentucky Bureau. Among her accomplishments was establishing a criminal justice beat at the Montgomery, Alabama Bureau. She also currently serves on the board of directors for the Red and Black. Jafari is editor on The Row, CNN's editorial oversight team that is responsible for script and story approval for investigative stories across all of CNN's platforms. She has been in that role for more than a year and has been at CNN for nearly 8 years, previously serving as a supervising news editor and news editor. Oops, that's why I need to prepare. Her career is an inspiration to aspiring young journalists, and we're very honored to have her speak to us today. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm welcome to Samara Jafari. And that is actually the picture on that slide that was like random woman. That was her. Anyway, so for your speech that you're going to give in 2 weeks, it's going to be a commemorative speech. And it would fall into one of these 5 categories. Okay, it should be between 3 and 5 minutes. We're not using any visual aids or anything. You should prepare a manuscript for this speech, but it should still appear as if you're being conversational when you're giving the speech. And it could be something, I would rather it be something real, okay? So in the past, what students have done sometimes is they've used this kind of as a second chance. If you've had a loved one that or a friend that died, and maybe you didn't give a eulogy, or you did but you weren't happy with it in the end, or you gave that toast that you weren't happy with. This is like your second chance to kind of do one that you feel is more fitting. If you can't think of anything that is like real or something that has come up, try to make it as realistic as possible. Like if you're introducing a speaker that you really want to hear from, right? Someone that you really are knowledgeable about. You're going to be graded on these areas, and the rubric is located below. Some of the tips I have here. An award speech should be a real award. A eulogy toast should be about a real person. And the speech of introduction should be about a real person. You should have a clear central idea, like what are you trying to say? Your introduction, body, and conclusion. And then I really think it's good to practice giving your speech, especially with a manuscript speech, to make sure that it doesn't sound like you're just reading something, that you're really putting some emotion to it. Any questions on this assignment? There's nothing you need to turn into me for this assignment. You're just giving your speech in 2 weeks, okay, when we meet. As I noted at the very beginning of class, I will be posting on Wednesday, or by Wednesday morning, I will post the homework for next week that is also going to be due. And that will cover the next few chapters in the book. Any questions? It's been a long class. Oh, go ahead.
I actually have a question.
Yeah.
It's funny this is your first assignment, because our kindergarten graduation is actually tomorrow, and I was given the privilege, I guess is what I'm gonna call it, of delivering the closing remarks before we leave. So I've already prepared something for the closing remarks. Should I then add something? Could I use part of that to finish my?
Absolutely. Yeah, comment? I think so. Yeah, that's good. If y'all need to reach out to me, again, don't be shy to email, reach out on Canvas, or to text me. Otherwise, I will see you in 2 weeks, not face to face, but kind of face to face. I'll see your face in 2 weeks. How's that? All right. Have a good night, everyone. Have a good Memorial Day weekend too. Bye-bye.